500,000 people live on the edge of Campi Flegrei, but few realize that artificial intelligence just uncovered more than 54,000 hidden earthquakes beneath their feet, 4 times what traditional methods ever detected, revealing a vast ring-shaped fault structure circling the supervolcano. Now, experts warn a magnitude 5 earthquake is possible where hundreds of thousands of people reside. How did nearly 75% of seismic activity go unnoticed, and what does this mean for the residents living on this restless caldera? The answers change everything you thought you knew about volcanic risk in Italy. Researchers from Stanford and Italy's National Institute for Geophysics and Volcanology spent 3 years combing through seismic records from Campi Flegrei, using an AI system trained to spot the faintest tremors. The numbers they uncovered were staggering. While traditional methods had logged just 12,000 earthquakes from 2022 to 2025, the AI revealed more than 54,000. That means nearly 3 out of 4 earthquakes had gone completely undetected, hidden in the noise and overlooked by even the most experienced analysts. For the 500,000 people living atop the caldera, this is not just an academic leap. It is a radical change in how the ground beneath their feet is understood. Each of those 54,000 events represents a tiny shift, a slip, a fracture, evidence of restless energy accumulating in the crust. The scale of this discovery forces a new reckoning with risk. The land is far more active, and the threat far more complex than anyone realized. But the shock did not stop at the numbers. When the scientists plotted every quake detected by the AI, a ring-shaped pattern snapped into focus. Instead of random scatter, the earthquakes traced a near-perfect circle, outlining the boundary of the ancient supervolcano. This ring is not just a curiosity. It is the fingerprint of a vast fault system, a hidden skeleton encircling the caldera. The clarity of the map left no room for doubt. What had once looked like a jumble of dots now revealed a single, coherent structure stretching for miles beneath towns, neighborhoods, and busy streets. At the heart of this discovery is a team led by Stanford's Bill Ellsworth and Xing Tan, working in partnership with Italy's National Institute for Geophysics and Volcanology. Their approach, powered by machine learning, transformed a blurry, incomplete picture into a high-resolution map of seismic danger. It is as if a fog has lifted, exposing the true architecture of the faults that define Campi Flegrei. The implications are immediate. With over 500,000 residents living inside the caldera and Naples just a short drive away, the stakes could not be higher. The ring structure does not just mark where earthquakes have happened, it shows exactly where the ground is most likely to rupture again. For the first time, scientists can see the full extent of the threat, not just isolated tremors, but a connected network with the potential to deliver powerful shocks. This breakthrough forces a new question. How did so many earthquakes remain invisible for so long? And what does the true map of Campi Flegrei mean for the people who call it home? The answers lie in the technology that made this discovery possible. A tool that can hear what human ears have always missed. Traditional earthquake detection at Campi Flegrei relied on a process called phase picking. Analysts would scan hours of seismic data, searching for the telltale P waves and S waves that signal an earthquake's arrival. In an ideal world, each event stands out clearly, but Campi Flegrei is anything but ideal. Hundreds of tiny earthquakes rattle the caldera every day, their signals blending, overlapping, and often drowning in a sea of background noise, traffic, industry, even the wind. For decades, this meant that only the loudest, cleanest events made it into the official record. The rest slipped by unnoticed, lost in the static. The breakthrough came when the Stanford and INGVI team turned to a new generation of artificial intelligence, the Earthquake Transformer. Unlike older models which needed clear, isolated signals, this system was trained on more than 1 million examples of real earthquakes from around the world. It learned to recognize the subtle fingerprints of seismic events, even when dozens occurred at once, or hid beneath layers of interference. Where a human analyst might see an indecipherable jumble, the AI system could tease apart overlapping quakes, tracing their origins and timing with remarkable accuracy. Lead developer Xing Tan describes the process as facial recognition for earthquakes. The model does not just look for textbook patterns. It adapts, learning the quirks of the Campi Flegrei caldera, its unique noise, its restless background, the way one microquake can bleed into the next. This flexibility is what allows the AI system to recover so many hidden events, especially the smallest ones, that traditional methods routinely miss. The earthquake transformer works by scanning continuous streams of raw seismic data, identifying not just the main shock but every faint precursor and aftershock. It can process months of recordings in a matter of minutes, flagging events as small as magnitude 0. The system's recall is especially strong in the range where most of Campi Flegrei's activity occurs. Tiny slips and fractures that individually are harmless but together reveal the true state of stress beneath the surface. Manual review and cross-checks show that most of these newly detected events are genuine, clusters of micro-earthquakes that align with known faults and patterns of ground movement. The AI system's ability to resolve overlapping signals is a leap forward, especially in a setting as noisy and complex as a restless caldera surrounded by urban life. This is not just a technical upgrade. The AI system's precision and speed mean that scientists can now build a complete, real-time picture of what's happening underground. Every shift, every crack, every subtle change in the caldera's heartbeat is captured and mapped. The technology does not replace human judgment, but it gives researchers a tool to see through the noise, transforming a blurry, partial view into a detailed, actionable map of seismic risk. Every month, the ground beneath Pozzuoli rises another inch, sometimes more. Satellite measurements and ground sensors agree. Since October 2025, uplift has accelerated to 25 millimeters per month, a pace not seen since the Bradyseism crisis of the 1980s. The numbers are stark. Over the past year alone, the land has surged upward by 30 centimeters. Since 2005, the cumulative rise at the city center has reached 148 centimeters, almost 5 feet. For people living and working here, these are not just statistics, they are daily disruptions. Cracks zigzag across kitchen tiles and living room walls. Doors that once swung shut now stick or hang ajar. Residents describe floors that feel subtly tilted, as if the entire city is riding a slow, relentless elevator. In the port, water is shallower than last year, and fishermen complain that boats scrape bottom where they never did before. Some locals joke about parking on the uphill side of the street, though last year there was no hill at all. Others remember the 1980s, when their parents packed up hurriedly and left Pozzuoli behind for months, unsure if they would ever return. A shop owner on Via Napoli points to a fresh fracture tracing the length of his storefront. He says, "My father saw this in 1984. Now it is my turn." We all hope it stops here. Social media fills with photos of new cracks and warped door frames, each shared with a mix of anxiety and resignation. For many, the sense of déjà vu is as unsettling as the physical damage. One resident writes, "It is like living inside a warning sign." The city's infrastructure strains under the pressure. Engineers report that some buildings, especially the older masonry homes, are showing signs of stress. Emergency crews have begun routine inspections, prioritizing schools and apartment blocks that saw damage 4 decades ago. Meanwhile, families quietly prepare go bags, just in case. The sense of uncertainty is everywhere, but so is a stubborn resolve. People here have lived with the volcano's moods for generations. Still, each new centimeter of uplift brings fresh questions about how much more the city can take before something has to give. Beneath the city of Pozzuoli, two major geological faults run almost parallel for miles before converging directly under the urban core. These aren't deep, distant features. They cut through the crust less than 2 kilometers from the surface, putting more than 40,000 residents directly above a zone of concentrated seismic tension. Over the past 3 years, AI-driven seismic mapping has traced the outlines of these faults with unprecedented clarity, revealing clusters of earthquake hypocenters packed tightly along their length. The shallow depth of this activity is especially troubling. Earthquakes that strike so close to the surface deliver more violent shaking, amplifying the risk to buildings, infrastructure, and lives. In October 2025, a landmark study in communications, earth, and environment delivered a stark conclusion. The ground is not simply stretching and rebounding like a rubber band. Instead, the data show the birth or reawakening of a real tectonic fault. Blocks of rock are starting to slide against each other, a process that can escalate from harmless microquakes to damaging shocks. The evidence points to a process underway, not just a passing phase. The ring-shaped structure mapped by the AI is not just a relic of past eruptions. It is a living, shifting fault system with its most active segments converging beneath the most densely populated part of the caldera. Stanford seismologist Bill Ellsworth, who led much of the recent research, puts it plainly. These long faults suggest that an earthquake in the magnitude 5 range is not out of the question. In a typical region, a magnitude 5 might cause moderate concern. Here, with faults so close to the surface and so many people living above soft, amplifying volcanic soils, the consequences could be far more severe. Models show that even a moderate event could produce ground acceleration strong enough to damage older masonry buildings, disrupt utilities, and force mass evacuations. The history is clear. When similar faults activated in the 1980s, the result was a city emptied almost overnight. The geometry of these faults is now mapped in detail. Each runs about 4 kilometers in length, dipping steeply beneath the city, with segments extending offshore into Pozzuoli Bay. Marine seismic surveys confirm their continuity beneath the water, linking land and sea in a single, restless system. Earthquake swarms cluster at these intersections, and satellite data show that the fastest ground uplift aligns perfectly with the mapped fault traces. All evidence points to a system under stress, one that has produced damaging earthquakes before and has the potential to do so again. For scientists and emergency planners, this is no longer a theoretical hazard. The convergence of faults beneath Pozzuoli is a tectonic alarm, demanding constant vigilance and real-time monitoring as the land continues to rise, and the risk of a major shock grows. Inside the control room of Italy's National Institute for Geophysics and Volcanology, scientists watch a live stream of numbers and waveforms, every second bringing new data from the restless earth beneath Campi Flegrei. The AI system, now fully operational, processes incoming seismic signals in real time, no longer a research experiment, but an essential tool for daily monitoring. Each tremor, no matter how faint, is logged and mapped within minutes. Over 1,000 earthquakes register every month, their locations updating on digital maps with the clarity of high-definition video. For the first time, researchers see not just isolated events, but the living pulse of the caldera as it happens. The intensity and frequency of swarms are tracked minute by minute. When activity surges, hundreds of microquakes cluster in tight bursts, and the system flags the change instantly. This is not just about counting earthquakes. The AI highlights where seismic energy is concentrating, drawing attention to segments of the ring fault that show unusual stress. Scientists describe it as watching the fault lines breathe, each uptick in activity providing a potential clue to what might come next. A recent study from November 2025 brought fresh hope. For the first time, researchers identified a clear preparatory phase before larger earthquakes, a combination of accelerating ground uplift and dense microquake swarms. The AI live feeds make it possible to catch these subtle signals as they develop, offering the chance to recognize when the system is entering a more dangerous mode. While no tool can predict the exact moment or size of the next quake, the ability to monitor every sign of tension in real time is a game changer. Scientists at Italy's National Institute for Geophysics and Volcanology now have eyes on the caldera's every move, racing to interpret the signals before the ground delivers its next surprise. Trust in the new AI monitoring system is not universal. Within the scientific community, debate continues over its reliability. Some traditional seismologists warn that the sheer volume of newly detected micro-earthquakes could include false positives, tiny signals mistaken for real events, especially in a region as noisy as Campi Flegrei. Peer reviewers have questioned whether the ring structure, so vividly outlined by the AI, is a genuine geological feature or a mathematical artifact created by the model's sensitivity. These doubts are not just academic. Civil protection agencies charged with safeguarding over 500,000 lives must decide how much weight to give these findings when planning for disaster. For the officials responsible for emergency response, the stakes are clear. The region's evacuation plans are built on lessons from the 1980s, but the population has grown, and the urban sprawl has crept deeper into the caldera. Recent audits of civil protection readiness have revealed uncomfortable gaps. Many shelters, established decades ago, have fallen into disrepair or been repurposed for other uses. Simulation drills run over the past 2 years have highlighted logistical bottlenecks, traffic congestion, unclear evacuation routes, and confusion over shelter assignments. Official reports praise coordination and readiness, but rarely include hard numbers on capacity or speed. No comprehensive audit of mass evacuation logistics has been made public since 2023. The alert system itself is layered, with decisions to escalate from vigilance to full evacuation, requiring input from both scientists and government officials. AI data alone cannot trigger mass movement. Multiple indicators and committee reviews are required. Still, the question lingers. If the next swarm escalates, will the system react in time, or will delays and debate leave residents exposed? For now, hope in technology is tempered by the reality of incomplete infrastructure and the limits of prediction. The ground may be mapped in high definition, but the path from knowledge to safety remains uncertain. Today, Campi Flegrei's underground movements are tracked in real time, but the risk is no longer hidden. With over 500,000 people living atop this volatile caldera, every new tremor redraws the line between safety and catastrophe. The technology may warn us, but nature will not wait for consensus. Some dangers do not sleep. What would you do if the ground itself became unpredictable?